Hey mathematicians, welcome back for another lesson. We are continuing our work in place value, so we're going to continue on with lesson number 13. Let's take a look at our learning target for today. As a mathematician, today I am drawing tape diagrams and decomposing numbers so that I can solve problems, use the standard subtraction algorithm. I know I've got it when I can solve problems using the standard algorithm. Think about subtraction and what you already know. What happens when you do not have enough to subtract? You will hear me say decompose while we are subtracting. Do you remember how to decompose 110 into 10 ones? You may have heard someone say, I need to borrow because I do not have enough. As mathematicians, we will not say borrow, we will say decompose. Let's take a look at our very first example. We have 4,259 and we are going to subtract 2,171. So we're going to go ahead and draw a tape diagram just to get that extra practice of drawing the tape diagram. So in this case, I'm going to have a subtraction problem. Okay. So I already know that my total, my bigger number, my total goes on top, so 4,259. And I'm going to label the other part, the other number, which is 2,171. Now, I have two parts, and this is what I'm solving for. So I'm solving for the other part. So in order to do that, we are going to begin by using the place value chart in our first couple of problems. So I have 4,000, 2 in the hundreds, 5 in the tens, and 9 in the ones. Now, we're going to go ahead and look at this second number, and we're going to think about each place, and we're going to think about marking off the discs as I use them. So let's look at the top number. We cannot flip-flop these numbers, okay? We have 9 minus 1. So if I go to the ones column, I have 9, and if I take away 1, I am left with 8, okay? Now, I'm going to go to the tens. I only have 5 discs, but it says I need to take away 7, so I do not have enough. So I'm going to decompose one of my hundreds, and I know that 10 tens is the same thing as 100, okay? So now I am left, and now I have 15, okay? So I have 15. So I no longer have 2 in the hundreds, I have 1 in the hundreds, and I no longer just have 5 in the tens, I have 15. So I'm going to take away 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I am left with 8, and 15 minus 7 is 8. Now I am in the hundreds. I have 100, and if I take 1 minus 1, if I take away 1, I am left with 0, and 1 minus 1 is 0. And then I am in the thousands. I have 4, and I need to take away 2, so I'm going to mark off 2. And that leaves me with 2 left. So my answer is 2,088. I'm going to check my work. I'm going to take my answer and I'm going to add the smaller number. So I'm going to add the 2 parts together and I'm going to see if I get with the number I started with. 4,259. I can also look at my tape diagram. I know the total was 4,259. Okay, so this is a great strategy to check your work to see if you're getting the correct answer. Okay, all right, let's take another look at another problem. We have 6,314, and we are going to draw a tape diagram. So I'm going to put the bigger number or my total on top, 6,314. And I'm going to fill in one of my parts with the other number, which is 3,133. And I'm solving for A. And it does not matter what variable you put there. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put 6,000 in my place value chart. I'm going to put 3 in the hundreds, 1 in the tens, and 4 in the ones. Now I'm going to begin subtracting. I'm starting in the ones column. I have 4 minus 3. So if I take away 3, how many are left? 1. Okay, 4 minus 3 is 1. Now I'm going to go to my tens. I only have 1 10, and I am supposed to take away 3. 1 minus 3. I cannot do that. So I'm going to have to decompose one of these hundreds and we know that 10 tens make 100. So now I have 11 tens, and I wrote 11 above my 1 because I now have 11. Now I can take away 3. 1, 2, 3, and I am left with 8. Okay, 11 minus 3 is 8. Now in the hundreds, I was left with 2. So now I have 2 minus 1, and that leaves me with 1. And then I have 6 in the thousands, and I take away 3, and I am left with 3. So my answer, or what we call the difference, is 3,181. Now I'm going to add these two numbers together, and I'm going to see if I get my total or get what I started with. So let's see if this works out. Starting in the ones, 1 plus 3 is 4, 8 plus 3 is 11, 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, and 3 plus 3 is 6. And I got exactly what I started with. So I know that I am correct. Okay. All right. Now, let's take another look. And this time, I'm not going to use the place value chart. This time, I'm actually going to just use my decomposing and visualizing skills to decompose. So I always start in the ones column. And 2 minus 0 is 2. Okay. Now, sometimes I like for kids to draw place value lines here just to make sure your digits are lined up. Now I'm in the tens column. 2 minus 1 is 1. And now I'm in the hundreds. 4 minus 5. I cannot do 4 take away 5. And I cannot make it 5 minus 4 because that's not what the math problem is. So I'm going to decompose. And I'm going to take one of those thousands and put it to the hundreds, which means I now have 14 in the hundreds. So 14 minus 5 is 9. 2 minus 1 is 1. And 2 minus 1 is 1. So my answer, or difference, is 11,912. So if I take my two smaller numbers, I take my answer, and I take the other smaller number, and I add them together, I can check my work. 23,422. I know I'm correct because when I added, it gave me what I started with. Now, when you're thinking about that addition and you look at the tape diagram, okay, and you have two parts and you're solving for those two parts, that's why when you add, you can check your work. Because if you already have your tape diagram and you're solving for the other part, then I know that these two parts added together give me my total. Because we know that addition and subtraction are what we call inverse operations. They are the opposite of each other. Okay, so when you see a tape diagram and you already have your total, okay, and you have one part, we know we're subtracting. All right. Now we have one problem that I want to share with you. It's a word problem. The paper mill produced 73,658 boxes of paper. 8,052 boxes have been sold. How many boxes remain? So I'm thinking about remain, leftover. So I know that they have 73,658. That's my total. Okay. and I know that 8,052 boxes have been sold. So I'm trying to figure out how many boxes are still left. So my tape diagram would be, my total goes at the top, 73,658. I know that they've sold 8,052, and I'm trying to figure out how many boxes are left. Okay. So if I have 73,658 and I take away 8,052, I can find how many are left. Again, sometimes drawing those place value lines to separate your ones, tens, and hundreds can help. So now I start with my ones. 8 minus 2 is 6. 5 minus 5 is 0. 6 minus 0 is 6. And then I get to the thousands. 3 minus 8. I cannot do 3 minus 8. So I'm going to have to decompose one of these 10,000s. So the 7 becomes a 6, and the 3 becomes a 13. 13 minus 8 is 5, and 6 minus nothing is 6. So my answer is 65,606. I'm going to take my answer and I'm going to check my work. Okay, so I take my answer and the number that I subtracted, and I add them together. And this lets me know if I'm getting the correct answer. So once I solve 73,658, that is exactly what I started with, so I know my answer is correct. Now, you have a problem to try. The library has 50,819 books. 4,506 are checked out. How many books in the library remain? I want you to pause your video, and I want you to try it on your own, and then you can unpause the video and check your work. So if I'm checking my work, you should, on your paper or whiteboard, have your tape diagram drawn. You should be solving for a variable. You should have your total, and you're taking away the books that are checked out. And you're going to decompose only one time in this math problem, and you should get 46,313. You should also, on your paper, have where you've checked your work. Okay, so we're going to talk about why it's important to check your work. Okay, so I got 50,819. That's what I started with. That's what my total is. So I know I am correct. So 46,313 books remain in the library. So you're going to have another problem, and you're going to try the next problem out completely on your own, and then we will meet to discuss your answers. Make sure you read the question carefully, draw out your model, make sure you have solved and then checked, and make sure you write your answer in a sentence. I will see you guys on the Google Meet.